Hello folks, and welcome to yet another cheery episode of the Audiophile Man. What do I have for you this time around? A turntable. This one is from Pro-Ject. Lots of people want to see a review of this one, and this one is the Evo 2. It's taken over 3.5 years, but the Evo turntable finally has a sequel. So looking at the Pro-Ject Evo 2, as it stands there on your shelf, it offers, how would I put this, clean lines, I would say. It's not fussy, it's not elaborate, it doesn't scream, look at me, it looks almost utilitarian. What I like is that it looks as if it's here to do a job, not faff about. The colour variations, and I reviewed a green model, well, that's the only real sense of luxury about this design. So let's cut to the chase. What are the differences between the Mark II and the original Mark I? Well, gone is the old Evo steel platter. In comes an aluminium variant. Both have TPE damping, but the new model holds the TPE strip, a sort of band of damping material, in a kind of structured trench moulding. Both platters have the same general weight, but the Evo 2 is less resonant. So if you have the opportunity to tap the Evo 1 platter, you'll know that this one has been damped because the ringing hasn't quite left it. Mostly it's gone, but there's a little bit left. If you tap the Evo 2 platter, well, that sounds completely dead now. And that's a good thing in vibrational terms. The tone arm is a carbon fibre based model spanning 8.6 inches, and that's basically the same, well, at first glance anyway, because there are changes between the Mark II arm and the Mark I. For the Mark II, you have a rear-mounted aluminium bearing block that grabs the tube directly now, which looks to enhance the damping, while the bearings themselves have been upgraded. The counterweight also features a new damping ring. TPE feet, well, they still form the basic support system here. The speed select, well, that hasn't changed either. That's still positioned on the front side of the plinth, underneath the left-hand side. Something else I liked about the new Evo 2 design, the improved design, is the positioning of the sockets at the back. The RCA sockets and the associated ground grub screw are now positioned within the plinth, which means they are easier to access during installation. And the same can be said for the power socket, again, in the plinth itself. Finally, the Audiophile 2M Red has been upgraded to a Picket Evo moving magnet cartridge, also made by Audiophile. In the box, you still get a pair of connected phono cables, which is very useful, saves a bit of time. And I've reviewed those in the past separately, and I like them a lot. And that is basically the techie side of the new Pro-Ject Evo 2 turntable. But how does it sound? Does it sound any better than the Evo 1? Well, let's find out, shall we? To begin then, I grabbed a bit of Peggy Lee and the title track from her Is That All There Is album, which has a Germanic Weimar Republic, almost disconnected hedonism about it. Something from the film Cabaret, perhaps. This one uses a piano, a bank of strings, a brass section, bass, acoustic guitar, a tuba, and what appears to be a banjo. This track is also useful because Lee actually talks through part of this song, so there's that speech thing to consider as well. For my first reference, I grabbed a Rega P3, and I emphasise the older P3 designation as opposed to the more modern Planner 3. Now you might question the inclusion of the P3 itself, but the latter shares the same essential personality as the former. It's just that the Planner 3 pushes the good points on a step or two. Essentially though, the P3 retains the Rega sound structure. So basically I was expecting the Rega to offer great upper mids and treble, and the Evo 2 to maybe excel towards the bass frequencies because, well, that's what really happened with the Evo 1. That's what the Evo 1 really excelled at when you compare it to a Rega turntable. It does great in terms of bass, and it does fine in terms of mids and treble, but the Rega really adds a little bit more. For the Evo 2 though, well, I was very impressed by the clarity of both the mids and the treble. Surprisingly so, actually. There was a noticeable lowering of high frequency noise here and vibration from the Evo 2. This produced an impressive upper frequency insight around the soundstage. There was also real focus on the Evo 2, and that added a sense of tonal realism. And yes, bass was impressive. It was still impressive. It didn't hit you over the head. It wasn't that kind of bass. Bass here had real character. So that tuba I mentioned had extra weight, while the upright bass had a fast, responsive bounce. Overall, this Peggy Lee track had more swing and finger-clicking rhythm. Next, I brought in a Michell Tecnodec. Now, the thing about the Tecnodec versus the Evo 2 is this. The Tecnodec is more expensive and a highly regarded design to boot. It has real history. It's also here, for this particular reference, coupled with a Goldring 1042 cartridge, which is another more expensive and superb design. Adding the two together pushes the price point upwards to around, what, 2K, give or take? So why bring this in? Because it's rather more expensive than the Evo 2. Hey, well, I wanted to see how far I could push the Evo 2 out of the box. Together, the Michell and the Goldring combo is understandably superior to the Evo 2 in terms of upper mids and the bass structure. Not surprisingly, as I say, I was expecting that result. Thing is, the Michell Goldring combo, it kind of sounds like an enhanced Evo 2, a modded Evo 2. So that tells me that the Evo 2 is on the right lines. It's doing the right things. So this is a big compliment to the Evo 2. It shows, well, to my ears at least, that the Evo 2 isn't doing anything odd. It isn't overemphasizing any one frequency to the detriment of another. And those frequencies themselves are very well disciplined. To me then, for the Evo 2, this test was actually successful, which leaves one more big test to fulfill, possibly the most important test of all. How does the Evo 2 compare to the Evo 1? Does the Evo 2 improve upon the sound quality of the Evo 1? Well, yes, it does. How? How does it do that? One word: personality. That's what I would say the Evo 2 gives you. Personality. That is extra detail, extra subtleties, extra emphasis in that information. In short, it gives you soul. Generally, there's a basic enhancement of upper mid detail here and treble detail and a larger, firmer bass frequency. In practice though, well, there's a sequence. Let me give you an example. There's a sequence in this song that talks about a child's view of a circus. Now the drums on the Evo 1 and the brass section on the Evo 1 sound great. They sound very interesting. They sound very informative, full of information, full of detail. They sound great. The Evo 2 though, the Evo 2 adds something. It adds extra information, extra detail. So what the drum sounds like here is if it's being hit by a half-drunken clown, while the trumpet section sounds bored, as if they've performed this sequence so many times, it means nothing at all now. And it says a lot about this particular part of the song. It says a lot about this particular circus. It contrasts the child's innocence with the harsh truth of the situation. It's revealing, but it's also very funny. Lee's vocals also provide extra emphasis. So when she hits a particular letter hard in a lyric, you really hear that with the Evo 2. You feel that a sharp emotional point is being made. Also on the left channel later on, there's a rasp of a shy acoustic guitar That rasp is the strumming, and that strumming sound gets pushed closer to the ear. It's more obvious in the mix. So that kind of thing adds extra layers of detail, accentuating the detail, providing richer information. I then turn quickly to Earth, Wind and Fire's Shining Star from the 1975 album, That's the Way of the World. And I was impressed by both the bass response, but also the general energy from the vocal performances from this group. With this group, it's easy for detail to be masked because there's so much going on, and the mids can be muddled, but the inherent clarity from the Evo 2 helped that detail to be present and correct. And that's basically the review of this turntable, the Evo 2 from Pro-Ject. Let me give you a few final thoughts, and I do have one or two. Then I'll do some pros and cons, and then I'll give you a rating. When I reviewed the original Evo turntable from Pro-Ject, I fell in love with it immediately. It provided the best overall performance of any turntable for that price point. Sure, other turntables out there did some things better. This turntable might have had slightly better mid-range detail. That turntable may have had slightly better bass response. But overall, as a package and weighing everything up in one box, the Evo was tops. Well, not anymore. The Evo 2 is the new king of the hill. For this new Mark II design, high-frequency noise and vibration have been lowered. Upper mid detail and treble information has been enhanced, while bass has bags more character. Actually, it's the mature, the subtle aspects of the sound that the new Evo 2 does well. This sounds like a turntable for grown-ups, for the listener who wants more than just a nice sound or a nice noise. So the Evo 2 is for audiophiles, yes, of course, but also it's for the general music lover who wants those little subtleties, wants intensity from their favourite entertainers, and wants those little details that make all the difference between a rehearsal and a true performance. Pros and cons. And in the good section, well, there's lots of mid-range detail here. There's a real rich presentation. Bass, well, there's plenty of bass, but it's characterful. Those extra Evo 2 enhancements in the design have also reduced the noise. And because high-frequency noise has been reduced, there's much more fine detail on offer. And in the bad section, absolutely nothing at all, which is why I would like to give the Pro-Ject Evo 2 turntable a very high rating indeed of 9 and a deeply groovy. Congratulations to Pro-Ject. And that's your lot, folks. Thanks very much for staying to the end of this particular video. Before you go, though, can you click just down below on the like and subscribe buttons, please? Just helps this channel to grow, and that's a very good thing indeed. Well, at least I think so. Anyway, down below, I'll put a link for the Pro-Ject Evo 2 turntable if you want to know more. Also, swimming around down there are my links to my website and my Facebook group, because my Facebook group is obviously in that direction. And finally, if you join my Patreon page, you'll have access to the exclusive Hi-Fi News Etc. video, which appears every single week, and there's a brand new one out right now. Check it out. Plus all kinds of other bits and pieces, hi-fi tours and other reviews, music features, lots of goodies, hundreds of things over yonder, so check it out. So I hope to see you there, because I hang around there quite a lot. Anyway, I'll be back on Friday with a new Music Alerts video, talking about new CDs, new vinyl and stuff coming out that particular week, and I hope to have your company. Until then, folks, bye-bye for now.